Hello everybody, today we'll be looking at Diesel 10. This is a 2004 model. So right now he's completely stock. And we're going to upgrade his motor. So we'll take the battery out. We'll be putting in a Hyper-Dash 2. Okay, so the first thing that we have to do is take out some screws. We have a little screwdriver. Yes, buddy, I heard you fart. Okay, so there's one screw. And here is another screw. Again, I just really like modifying these ones because unlike the newer ones, these use standard Phillips screws, which makes it a whole lot easier. And it just magically lifts out. Okay, so here is the drive unit. Very simple, very basic. So, if you've watched the video of my modified duck engine, you'll notice that I had this piece removed from the case. If you can see, there are a couple of tabs, one on the top, one on the back, and this top piece is glued down. So you can either take a knife or something and cut straight down through it so you're right in line with the center of the case, or you can pry underneath it with a good old pocket knife and try to get that off. I'll slowly just try to cut through it. Alright, we will come right back to that. Okay, we are now back after I've fixed myself. Do not use a knife when splitting open these cases. So I got my good old Dremel. Hopefully this disc will cut through. It doesn't take much. Okay, that should be enough to get the whole process started. Take a little bit more prying, break through it, but do not use a knife. Bad idea. Okay, so I don't know how well you can see that, but there is now a split in that little fastened on tab. So we will just kind of pry up on these tabs right here and see what we got to work with. Okay. I may have pried up a little harder than I should have on that, but we do have screws that we can work on. Probably should have taken the screws out first. Oh well, not a big deal. So, as you can see, there's two more Phillips screws. There's one of them. Now be sure not to mess these screws up, as they are different than the first two that were taken out. Don't want to put ones that are too big back in the motor, else you will crack your case. Alright, now we're at the point where we can split this open. So take a look inside there. This is exactly how Duck's motor was set up, with these little wires that are looped over and they go inside the terminal on the battery. No soldering. Makes it very easy. Just slide that out and set that right off to the side. Okay, so here you gotta wait. And then there is another looped wire for the other side of the motor. Okay, so now comes the part where we open up the Hyper 2. Take a look at that. Nice little motor. So the next thing we have to do is pry this gear off. Doesn't take much force. Use too much force, it'll end up coming off and flying across the room. So I usually just start it, finish it by pulling it off, and then we put this one back on. And like I said in Duck's video, make sure to try to maintain the same spacing between the motor and the gears, just so that it'll catch the drive gears. So now all we have to do is loop the wires back through the terminals. This is always my fun part. They never seem to want to work out. So usually works if you pry it up with a small screwdriver. Find a way to hold it up. You can easily loop inside the terminal. So we got this one raised up, and you simply loop it through, and then hopefully if it all works out it'll slide back down. The new motor will slide in the drive unit case. Everything will be lined up nice. So this piece of the case here, you know, if you're not paying attention, your wire could fall out and then you wouldn't know how to put it back together. Always make sure to take the case apart and keep the wires where they should be. So when you remove the wire from the motor terminal, just kind of picture how that would be on there. So as long as the bent end ends up being flat on this side, it's put back together correctly. So make sure that piece is like so. Then you just simply go from the underside and loop it back in. Maybe I misspoke on that one. Okay, go from the top side. Then you want to get all the shafts lined up. I will probably just take hot glue and kind of fix my little mistake right there. Really not a big deal with these because, oh, I see something. We've lost a little spring. So now we need to find where that came from. So we gotta take this back apart. This shaft right here looks like it's missing a spring. So we'll just set that on there like so. Okay, just double check. We need this to go back in the top. Like that. Get the weight put back in there. Also something that I almost missed. Okay. So now that we got that part back together, take the 2 Phillips screws that have the smaller heads on. Phillips screwdriver. Screw these back in. Like so. Alright, looks like everything should be good to go. So now we'll be reattaching the drive unit to the chassis. Oh, I see a couple of fuzzies in there that might as well clean that out since we have it apart. Normally in a motor swap I would be replacing the rubber wheels on there. These don't seem too bad, so we'll leave them. Okay, now if you're wondering why there's these little bent wires on here, well, these go to the terminals on the motor, and if you see on the chassis, another wire. So fairly simple, basic idea here. You have to put the front in first, and that's that. Now take the last screws, screw them in like so. Okay, so now we're going to put the battery back in, and in a perfect world he will run fairly nicely. Now I've been trying to figure out if I wanted to try to stick a 9-volt battery in there. I really don't want to burn out these motors, so I did a little research. I came across some battery holders. Now, if you look at a basic compact flashlight, you'll notice that there's a battery holder, holds AAAs, AA's, 3 or 4 of them, depending on the size. Well, I ran into some battery holders that are C-size. This one out of the flashlight here is a little too long, but I do have some coming in the mail. They are a C-sized battery holder that hold four AAA batteries. So as soon as I receive those items, I'll be able to keep the stock size, not have to wire in a battery tender or car or anything like that. I'll simply be able to put the battery holder in and have 4 AAA batteries in there, which will make it pretty quick. But for now we'll just have 1 C battery in there. And last thing to do is put his body shell on. So here we have a diesel 10 with a Hyper-2 battery, or Hyper-2 motor. Soon we'll be having a battery upgrade to a 4 AAA battery modification. I want to repeat one more time, when you're splitting these particular drive units open, Do not use a knife. You'll cut yourself. Yep, didn't work out too well. Use a Dremel. Any kind of a cutting disc will work just fine. I'm sure even a sanding one will be just enough to get through that. And that will be the end of our video.
And thanks for watching.
And thanks for watching.